Good afternoon, my wonderful human beings. God gave you balls and ovaries for a reason. So if you're on this video, you're likely a man. But if you are a woman, I will include you. You were given ovaries, and men, you were given balls. And right now we're in a really interesting period. Don't mind the kids in the background and the yelling mom, but we're in a really interesting period because I've been noticing this really dense collective energy. It started with me just consistently feeling these constant, never-ending thought patterns about like dating and putting myself out there more and wanting and desiring like a different type of woman that I attracted than I attracted in the past. So it really got me thinking about my old behavior patterns and thought patterns, and as I've been thinking more about this, I've been feeling into the thoughts that I've had that have been blocking and repelling that which I want to attract. So if I'm looking for a divine feminine woman and not in the light worker context, in the context of my own belief about how God created a woman, a belief that I've now had to change in order to see that which I want. I've had to shift into a new mindset. And what I've been essentially understanding is that there's roughly there's 6 big things that are going on right now in the collective for men that have stripped them of their balls. And when you're stripped of your balls, your belly energy, your savagery, as we would call it, not from the essence of being a savage to rape and pillage, from the essence of being a savage to protect that which you love and to get what you want. Not needing to take, just asserting your presence. And so the 6 big things that are coming up right now in the collective are: 1, lack of purpose and direction; 2, suppressed masculine energy; 3, weak boundaries in relationships; 4, a lack of male mentorship and brotherhood; 5, addiction to comfort and dopamine traps; and 6, fear of rejection and failure. So we'll go into each of these today. Number 1 is lack of purpose and direction. So men feel lost in a world that no longer offers clear rites of passage. So the questions that come up for a lot of men, myself included, which put me on my hero's journey, is: why am I here? What am I building? Who am I becoming? And many men and people are floating around in a space of confusion of maybe working a job in which they don't feel fulfilled, or doing a thing in which they put all their time and energy into becoming a certain person in which they thought they were supposed to be in order to be a man, in order to have purpose and direction. And then they get to that point where they have everything that they wish they would have in the past. They get it and they're like, I feel more lost than when I was chasing it. And this is really common and really daunting. I experienced this with my first real quarter life crisis when I was 25 or 26. I went through a real dark night of the soul of getting sick and deciding to quit my job as a nurse that I spent 5 years in school and 2 years in the field. And I went into that field fully through my heart. I sacrificed everything. I never went to parties in college, very rarely. I didn't drink much until I was 21. And I got a 4.0 GPA. It was technically a 3.8 at my junior college. But I got a B in human sexuality that has absolutely zero reference to my performance in the bedroom. the teacher was an interesting person. We did not get along. So I went hard in school to become the person I thought I was meant to become. And when I became that person, I actually got very sick because my soul was screaming at me that the path I took was the wrong one. And so I was forced to make a very difficult decision, which was disregard everything, everyone around me that I looked up to or had an authority presentation over me, parents, coworkers, older people, people with life experience. I had to make the decision to not listen to them and listen to my soul, what my soul is telling me to do. So put in my 2 weeks notice at work and bought a one-way ticket to Colombia, sold all my stuff and just let it rip. And that put me on a 6-year hero's journey where I was going through loops and crazy patterns and getting into relationships where I had to identify old patterns that no longer served me. And it really completely shifted who I was as a person and a man. And so the first step, if we want to get over this problem of lack of purpose and direction, is to really just identify that which scares you the most and go for it. Jump ship. Jump off the ship, swim towards the island. Swim towards that place that you can barely see but you know it exists. I've been rewatching Vikings, and the first 2 episodes, Ragnar Lothbrok, spoiler alert, has this extreme ambition, so much conviction in the fact that there were better lands in the West. And the Earl, who was stuck in the monotony of the old world, continued to tell him, "You're not listening to my authority. We will kill you." And Ragnar just sat in the pocket, and he was willing to die for his conviction because he and his soul so desperately, and not even out of desperation, but out of convictedly, knew what it was meant to do. He was a revolutionary. And so, despite the persecution that confronted him, he went for it. That is where we will find more of our essence as men. That brings us to number 2, which is suppressed masculine energy. If you're like me and you live in the US or another Western country, Canada, you might have a feeling that the masculine instinct has been castrated. It's been labeled as toxic. There have been many people. I remember on my water polo team in college, our coach pulled us aside one day and he pulls out the school paper. He throws it down on the table. He looks all of us dead in the eye and he goes, "I don't care about what you guys do outside of practice. Obviously, I don't want you doing stupid shit. Don't do stupid shit. But I can't control you. All I'm going to tell you is a man the other day got drunk with a girl. They had sex. She went and told everyone that it wasn't consensual. And because they were drunk, he was in a very bad position. They said, make very conscious choices if you decide to drink alcohol. And if you decide to be with a woman, do not be drunk." And where does that come from? Well, there's a problem now in our society where the court systems. I know a guy who has a whole business on helping men be able to develop a relationship with their father again after the separation that occurred during divorce. And what usually happens for men is the woman has a lot of power. And in the court system, the woman is usually going to get the money and she will get the rights to the children. But the issue is, if your kids are over the age of 10 or 12 or 14, they should probably actually be around the man more, especially if they're a teenage boy. Obviously, if the dad is extremely toxic, he should be removed from the kids, but I'm talking about in a lot of situations, I know many men who have lost their children, and the only issue was the relationship itself. They weren't actually bad parents. They weren't bad fathers. They were incredible fathers. They lost the frame, and power struggles occurred. And in some instances, women leveraged the toxicity that is the society of today and leveraged the court systems to be able to get more, and be greedy. And that doesn't happen in every case. But there's now a lot of guilt and shame around being a man and being able to be in an authority position, which is the masculine essence. A woman who's in her feminine will submit to a masculine man. And so many men now are afraid of having that perceived authority because of what they have seen happen to other men. So what's really weird is there's all these YouTubers now that are talking about they're in their 30s and 40s and they'll never get married. Well, you zoom back to the 1920s and everyone was getting married. It's not to say that that's the right decision, but why is there such a weird occurrence now where I meet a couple that's been together for 20 years, a more recent couple, and I'm like, holy crap, for you to be still in a relationship in this day and age is wild. What have you done to cultivate that love to be able to stay together? So the suppression of masculine energy, the castration of our balls, has led to many of us becoming more passive, over pleasing, and emotionally numb. And in order to get out of that, we have to understand that we weren't meant to be domesticated as men. We're meant to lead. And you don't have to lead other men to be a leader. But if you do want to have a family, you have to be a leader. If you're not a leader, you will lose your children. But if you take your balls back, you won't have to worry about that. So number 3 is weak boundaries in relationships. So men are either, one, completely avoiding relationships altogether, or two, getting walked all over when they're in it. And this will lead to eventually the separation that occurs when a woman is not fulfilled anymore. Many are seeking female validation and losing themselves to the feminine. Many don't know how to hold polarity without collapsing into either domination or submission. It's power dynamics. To be a man is to understand that we've been created by God, and we are powerful. We are more muscularly dominant. We are stronger from a physical prowess standpoint. And when we can understand our own darkness that come with the dynamics of power, we can actually be powerful from the place of actual power, which is not having to control, but also being able to set boundaries in a way in which control doesn't have to happen, but you have more control because you set boundaries. It's essentially giving other people the option of, hey, here's my line in the sand. If you want to come and be with me, you can cross that, but do not cross the line you just crossed. If you want to be over here, never do that again. It's very important to have that. It's tension. The ability to hold tension as a man if you're in sales. Everyone is in sales, by the way. Even if you're not directly receiving money, you are in sales if you're trying to court a woman. You have to sell yourself. You have to prove your value. You prove your value by being able to create a safe container in which boundaries exist. And you can show your strength, but you have to have that strength cultivated inside of you by having a relationship with your balls and with God. It's like the ball analogy. Having balls is being able to be in the full primal of a man who's got his feet on the ground and he's got spear in hand, but also have the ability to set boundaries with that spear and put it down if needed, but use it if needed. Your spine is the bridge between your balls and your heart. Strengthen that back, baby. Get those balls back, baby. Those hats will be made eventually. Get your balls back. Make balls big again. I don't know what I'm going with. Let me know in the comments. Number 4, lack of male mentorship and brotherhood. This goes back to lack of rite of passage. I got sent down a bunch of loopholes of narcissistic men and outsourcing my authority to them and being in cult-like scenarios where there was an authoritarian figure that I followed because they had conviction. And so if we don't have elders who are compassionate and also have boundaries, and if we also don't have father figures, also younger brotherly figures in which we can mentor and help and support, and also men who are equal to us. So having 3 in a way, having like a mentor, being in a divine relationship, a brotherhood in which you're both equal, and then also being a mentor to other people, having a mentee. Those things are really important to be able to sharpen the sword of what it is to be a man. And life is really hard if you're alone as a man. For women, doesn't matter if they're fat and ugly or extremely beautiful. Some would argue that a beautiful woman has life much easier. I would argue that they have they can attract things easier because they're attractive, but they'll also have different problems that another person wouldn't realize. So deep loneliness and suffering will occur if you're a man and you don't, 1, cultivate a deep relationship with yourself and God through solitude, and then 2, take that solitude and that time that you spent alone and bring it back to other men. Express it with other men. Tell other men about it. Talk to other men about it. Talk to other men about your problems. I think in my future relationships, what I didn't do right, and I've learned this from other men, is in my previous relationships with women, I spent too much time trying to be a problem solver, and women don't actually want that unless they ask for it directly. And ultimately, most women just want to be listened to, and to have someone they can tell their problems to. And if we want to get better at that, we have to be able to be vulnerable with other men, tell our problems to other men, and listen to them. Number 5 is addictions. The big addiction is comfort and pleasure. We have whole industries designed to strip men of their masculine power, especially the sexual energy. I've struggled with this, and I continue to struggle with this. This yearning for a dopamine fix. And I think when we're younger, if we develop certain sexual patterns in which we're masturbating or watching false sexual encounters online, we're chasing a dopamine trap in which we want to experience pleasure so we can get out of the now. And this reflection right now is very good for me because I'm understanding I've had big wounds in which I've filled those with analyzing past sexual experiences and encounters and trying to go back to that to soothe myself now, when I don't actually need that. All I need is to be present in my pain. And we can be present in our pain more when we're supported with other people and we're supported by God. The pressure that we experience as men is very difficult and daunting and challenging, especially if you're a father. or you're a man who wants to become a father and you're trying to do all the things in order to attract that which you want, a family, there's a lot of pressure to be someone, to achieve the perceived status or the perceived character that is required to court someone very special. And all of that becomes easier when we understand our addictions. I know someone who vulnerably opened up to me and told me that they're actually going to a retreat in which for 2 weeks they just dive into the pain of um, their sexual addiction to prawn. And it's a it's an emotional topic because I used to get really angry with the OnlyFans agencies and people who are in that industry, but now I'm coming more to um, just really only not focusing on the people who are putting out that content and how bad it is, but focusing more on supporting the people who are addicted to that because it's still it's an unmet need in the marketplace, and the people who are making money off of that are just extrapolating on that need. And the need is when we have addictions, we're trying to fill a hole um, through quick dopamine traps. We're trying to fill this hole that we don't know how to fill. But when we become more compassionate towards ourselves and the actual yearning to understand where that addiction comes from, those addictions start to fall away because we shift into an identity that no longer needs those addictions. Those addictions cannot survive. I stopped drinking for 2.5 years because I had a problem. And to many, it wasn't even a problem because my habits and behavior patterns were pretty vanilla compared to some of the people who are alcoholics. But I would binge drink, and when I would drink, I would drink to the point of getting super stupid, and not like, oh, Logan's being such an idiot. Some nights that would occur, but just numbing myself because the alcohol felt good, taking another shot and another shot and another shot, or obsessively and compulsively masturbating. These are things that men struggle with all the time, and I'm here to tell you that it's actually quite simple to overcome. You just have to come back into your body and stop running from um, the perceived pain that addiction, that alcohol, that sexy girl on OnlyFans is perceivedly going to fill. If you keep going back to it, then it's an addiction. And then finally, we have fear of rejection and failure. Men are terrified of failing in business, romance, and social settings. Many don't take action because they fear looking stupid, weak, or not enough. They silently shame themselves for not being further along. And so, for a lot of guys, there's that typical jock archetype in high school that got all the girls, and it's because he just didn't care about any of this stuff. He didn't care about rejection or failure. He was just being himself. And we can attribute that to them having good parents. But I also know guys in high school that were super popular who still had a shitty upbringing. So the external doesn't matter as much as the internal, always. And um, a lot of guys, myself included, in the past, who aren't getting what they want, are usually just afraid of stepping into the fire, which is reality, which is the truth. And so I found myself going to all these ayahuasca retreats, men's retreats, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars on all types of coaching, health coaching, esoteric coaching, therapy, financial coaching. And all of those things helped me understand myself better and understand how I want to navigate in the world. But if I was giving my old self advice, I would say, dude, you don't need to go do all those things because you're actually I was actually just offsetting the inevitable, which was eventually I would have to step up. And so all those things were these programs and mentorships and retreats where I was trying to get put in my power by someone else, and the only person who could do that was myself. And so every retreat that I went to, I got closer to the truth that the only way that I could actually get what I want in this life is to identify that desire that I want and go after it. There's a lot of guys that will rationalize their current existence. I know a guy who I spent some time with him, and we're not hanging out because we had a conversation essentially just around like he wants to open up this big business and that's his future desire. And I'm like, okay, what are the steps you're taking to get there? And he just had all these excuses. I'm like, dude, you already know what you need to do. Like let's map this out. What are the things that have to happen? Oh, I got to talk to an investor. I'm like, okay, go do that. He's like, well, I don't have the whole plan ready. I'm like, okay, well, just make the plan. He's like, well, and he started running out of excuses. He had no more excuses. So we got right to the fear. We got right to the point in which he had a decision to make, which is just step forward. Step into the arena, be the gladiator. I had my friend Mickey write, he's a very good writer. He's in our community, Ubuntu. I had him write a piece of work from the perspective of the gladiator walking into the arena and all the fear that comes with maybe not making it out on the other side. It's really interesting in the reality we live in now. Society has gotten very soft because although there are wars going on, most people will never be in a war. The only war that they'll ever be in is the spiritual war that goes on within ourselves. The spiritual war is being able to identify that which we no longer want to be, letting it go, grieving in the process, and stepping into that new identity. And then not holding on to that identity, becoming a rich man and not holding on to the identity of being rich and running away from that old person you were, just accepting where you are now. And so, point number 6 about fear. If you want to understand it more, watch my video on fear. It's probably like 5 videos below this or 4 or something. But fear is the great compass of what we need to be doing. And so all of these points in how we've lost our balls as men all just come back to cultivating a stronger relationship with ourselves through accepting that being a man is not easy. Being a human is not easy. Being a woman is not easy. I'm glad I'm a man. But if it's not easy, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep choosing the easier path? The easier path is actually much more difficult because it comes with more consequence. The Ragnar Lothbrok path comes with much more reward, and you don't have to go fight against an earl and take over his kingdom in order to experience the kingdom within that occurs when you step into the fire of your own fear. So if you want to step into that more, I highly recommend applying for the Ubuntu Fellowship. The link is below. You can read the white paper on that. And if you're interested in joining, we can hop on a call and discuss. It's a philanthropic community. Only the right people get in, but we're building a very, very special group of men who all want to sharpen each other's swords and give back while we do it. So much love to all of you. Reminder to put down your laptop, put down your phone, get outside, go experience some solitude by yourself in nature, preferably. Put your feet on the grass. Enjoy the simplicity that allows us to be better men. And I'll see you in the next one.